timing is everything.
Wow! The second oldest member, not the second oldest, although he probably
I
is.
was a member before you. If you look at
No. Well, we will debate that at a future date. First, gung hei fat choy. Everyone should have a healthy, happy year of the monkey.
Oh yeah.
This I borrowed from my granddaughter Beatrix because they did have gung hei fat choy yesterday. And if you go online, Facebook, anything, you'll see all of those greetings. Or from Beijing, China, you'll see it. This morning, it's a special day. It's a special topic. And I thought, well, what could I talk about? Well, I thought I will tell you the story, which is why I thank Steve for videotaping it, because I've told bits and pieces of this through the years. But I don't think I've ever videotaped it. Certainly, someone asked me how I met, where is my Valentine, if you wish to call your significant other that. And I said, let's videotape it, and then I'll just tell them, look on Facebook or YouTube or wherever we're going to post that, and I won't ever have to tell this story again. Bear with me. Timing in life is everything. I've proven that many times, and then some of you who were here know that I'm born the last week of 1945, which makes me 1 week early of being a baby boomer. Baby boomer started in 46. Probably the last thing I'll ever be early to in my life. Starting out. What's interesting about it, we've now had maybe 70 years to look back on. How many of you in the room can say that? Nobody. It's really quite an accomplishment just to survive, whether it's in Los Angeles, in life. So I decided, let me tell you all at one time. Sorry for those who aren't here, they'll have to look it up on the internet. But interestingly enough, timing in life is everything. And I live that, and I'll share with you now why that I feel that is the case. Perhaps you can relate to it in your own lives, but this is my story and I'm sticking to it. Summer 1963. How many people were not born yet? And that really makes you feel old, although it's kind of amazing to talk to people that were not alive at that time. My family lived in Florida. That's where I grew up. I was born in Baltimore, but my folks moved to Florida when I was 18 months old. So here, living in Florida, first 18 years of my life, the economy went way down in Florida, what we call the Cuban invasion, the late 50s, early 60s. As you know, politically, Castro allowed the wealthiest to leave, take nothing with them. So the doctors, the lawyers, the affluent came to Miami, overloaded the economy, and it just went down for decades. We were in show business, as I mentioned before. We were based in Miami, which had fabulous showrooms. It was really incredible. If you didn't see it then, you will never see it again because it doesn't exist like it did then. And of course, in the summer, we would go up to the Catskills, that's the upstate New York, also known as the Borscht Belt. Everyone in show business would be in the Borscht Belt of that era. Spend the summer and then go back to Florida. Florida is, South Florida, totally flat. There's not a hill, a mountain. Really is very different than the New York Catskill Mountains. In the summer of '63, my father, in his wisdom, he decided he would check out California. So he and my brothers, I have two brothers and I have a sister, did what we call a scouting party. They drove someone's car to Los Angeles. Let's check it out, see if that's better there. My brother Marty was 13 months older than me, so he graduated '62. He didn't want to stay in Florida, so he went up to New York on his own. Well, my father was extremely adamant about keeping the family together. Said, come on back from New York and we'll go and check out California. Now, at that time, maybe the era being differently, he said, well, my brothers and my father come out here, check things out. We had a cousin, my mother's cousin who lived here. It's always good to have someone that you're related to give you kind of an idea of what to do, where to go. So they were writing letters, I think you probably have them somewhere, telling of what was going on in Los Angeles in 1963. And at that time, they hadn't made a decision. So the last letter we got was glowing reports. There's jobs, there's places to perform, and all this stuff that we were used to. So my parents made the decision to come back to Florida and sell everything and move to California. That's a real pivotal and amazing change in your life, no matter where you're from or where you go. Some of you have made that journey from other countries, in fact, not just from East Coast to West Coast. So when the summer came along, I was due to graduate in 1963, that's 52 years ago. My folks, my father came back to Florida, I forget where I live sometimes, to Florida by Greyhound bus. You've all heard of it, maybe you've taken it before. But he had a half a ticket to return to California, and since he drove a car out, he being frugal as he was, he decided that I would come back on his half a ticket to Los Angeles. And he was coming to Florida, pack up my sister, my mother, and sell everything, the house and everything else, and then come to California. Because we had our car there. Remember, he'd driven someone else's car out to California. I had never traveled alone, certainly traveled all over the country, even to Havana, Cuba, and other places, but I'd never gone on a trip. It was about a 3-day trip, day and night. All I took with me was a small suitcase and my violin, which I played since junior high school. And I, just over this last week, a little aside, I'd taken it over to my granddaughter's. And I don't open it very often, but she took right to it and she wanted to play, and so my son, of course, posted things on Facebook. You can check that out at another time. I'll give you the website. And it's amazing because, boy, if that violin could talk, it's amazing to have something over. It's got to be 75 years old because I got it in junior high school and it had already been 20 years old. So it's the link. Plus, I literally carried it on the Greyhound bus with me. So when I came out, my oldest brother picked me up. In fact, one of the last places we stopped coming into the Hollywood station on Vine was this Denny's restaurant. So you're talking about things going full circle. So when I saw we were going to meet here, I said, oh my God, I was here in 1963. I didn't know how far away Hollywood was at the time. Literally, it was blocks away. That's where the headquarters were for Greyhound. My brother picked me up. We had a Plymouth convertible. And of course, it's California. I'm used to very beautiful places, Florida, California. Some of the best weather in the world. Not summer in Florida, but in general, we don't have snow, we don't have 4 seasons. So he picked me up there and promptly took me up to the top of La Cienega. And I had never seen a sight like that from the top of the hill, sunset and La Cienega, and a view. It still takes my breath away. It's as high as you can be, not be in an airplane. So when I saw that view, given that Florida is totally flat, I had never seen that sight except in an airplane. And my middle brother, Marty, who was 13 months older than me, had graduated the year before in '62. He was working for the Beverly Hills Courier. He was an entertainment and restaurant editor. Well, there are wonderful perks of that job, which is everyone welcomes you to have you come in. There was a place on the corner of La Cienega, some of you might remember, probably most of you will not, called the Lobster House. It was on La Cienega and Santa Monica Boulevard. And of course they welcomed us royally. We had anything on the menu, because my brother was of course going to give them a good review. And so he was always an amazing, resourceful person. Marty, bless him. He could really be on a desert island, and he managed to be entrepreneurial. He just was that type of a person. In fact, he was referred to as Hurricane Marty because he made me seem calm. So he took us out to dinner, and of course it was a few days because my parents had to drive out after they sold it, so a matter of a few weeks. Unfortunately, what occurred is that I wasn't able to attend my graduation, prom, because there are about 6 weeks difference between East Coast, West Coast. So I was not able to have any of those things, and I didn't hold it against my parents because obviously I had a ticket that I had to use before a certain time. But being dutiful daughter that I was, I just went along and did what they asked me to do. So, to sum up in the next couple minutes, I will now tell you about the person that I met. Now, things are serendipitous. I absolutely believe it. That's why I believe that timing in life is everything. I was up the street, again, so many things happen in this area, on the corner of Sunset, and there was the guitar, not the Guitar Center. In those days, there was the Organ Center, which my oldest brother worked at. It's now across the street from the Guitar Center, and there was a restaurant there. And at the time, it was called the Sabra. It was an Israeli cafe. So summer of '63, we lived on Wilshire in Beverly Glen, me with my family. Moved a few times, but that's where we were. A hot summer, extremely hot, humid summer, August '63. And my upstairs neighbors were a bunch of fellows who went to UCLA. All of them were Israelis. All of them were studying engineering, but on any given night, there's no telling how many were actually living there. And we were the upstairs neighbor. So one of the fellows that I was friendly with, totally platonic, he said, "Come on, we'll go and get coffee." So I said, "Oh, okay, I will go with you." And he took me to the Sabra Cafe. We go over there, and it's very dark. I wouldn't eat anything there because I couldn't see what the food is. It looked like they were eating paste, which was almost. And this fellow comes over, sits down next to me. I was waiting for my girlfriend. Finally, she was there. And I couldn't understand him. He had such a thick accent. Every second word was, you know. But I had no clue what he was saying. But I thought, how he's chutzpahdik. I mean, it's gutsy. Just to come over and just sit down with me and my friend, Manny, and just start talking to me. I said, "Oh, why don't you go home to your wife?" You have to understand, I was 18 years old and he was 24. He was with two friends who were prematurely bald, and they looked much older. He still has hair, talking about 51 years later. But I said, "Okay, how do I get rid of this joker?" So I said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to give you my name." And I thought, how smart of me, I will give him my Hebrew name. Well, nobody called me Malka, which means queen, by the way, except my parents. So I said, I'll get rid of this guy. What I should have done is given him the right name and the wrong number, but I didn't. Whatever possessed me, I gave him Malka. Write the number on the matches, which I probably still have somewhere also. I am a collector. And he proceeded to call me the next day. And I thought, oh my God, my father, who was really overprotective, is going to ask me where I met them, and I'll have to tell him I gave him my number, a total stranger, in this dark restaurant. Meantime, my friends and I left. He calls me up and he asks for Malka. Well, my father said, there's nobody here by that name, especially with his accent. And he said, oh, you must mean Marilyn. I thought, oh boy, am I busted? What am I going to tell him? And he invites me. He worked so hard to get my number and my information. He ends up inviting me to a soccer game to watch him play. No ego there, right? He had a red Chevy Impala convertible with the top down when he pulled up to pick me up on Wilshire and Beverly Glen. I go out with him to go, I say it's very innocent, we're going to a soccer game, make it 10 to 15. Pretty okay. And all of a sudden in the back seat, there's this young lady sitting there already when we go out to the car. I thought, how strange is that? We're double dating. 2 women and him. Young women, but still women. And we proceeded to go and watch him play soccer on a Sunday. And of course, he's so full of himself. He was a semi-professional soccer player with the #1 team in the nation, the Maccabees, so we say Maccabi. And here he plays, and goes to the shower, comes back, and the 2 women, me and Linda, who we've known each other more than 50 years, and he wasn't that fond of her, but obviously he liked what he saw with me, which is very nice. And he invites me out without a date in the back seat already. And I said, I'm not that keen on this guy. He's really has such an ego, probably from being an Israeli. That's part that goes with the territory, particularly Sabra's native-born Israelis. And we started to date. And I was ready. Every date we went on, I thought, no, this is not the best match. And I didn't have any intention. I was in college at Santa Monica College. I thought, well, we'll just go out a few times to a movie, maybe a dinner. Sunset Boulevard, where people used to cruise. They got dressed up in heels and hose and the whole thing for a Saturday night to go to the movies. That's what people did. Cruising was legal in those days. So we started going out, and the more I learned about him, I did like some of the things. Very intelligent. I started to understand and listen so that I didn't just hear, you know, but not know what he's saying. And that's true. I don't hear his accent now. It's the same accent that he had when I met him. So we started to go out. I wasn't serious with him or anyone because I didn't have that intention. That's why I say timing in life is everything. Had I not gone into that cafe that evening, likely we never would have met. So to fast forward it, almost 51 years, 50 and a half years, sometimes I'll say to him, how did we get this far? We have grandchildren. It's like, where did that happen along the way? And I have to go back that it was Beshert, which means kismet, fate, meant to be, because it wasn't anything I planned. He may have had other ulterior motives, which obviously he was a young man, that's so sure. They see a pretty lady, it's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go out with her. And I'm sure that's what happened in his mind. He never really discussed it. I think I'll have to do that now. In the meantime, life happens, like John Lennon says, while you're making other plans. No question about it. So having come full circle, including back to Denny's, where I stopped on the way to the Greyhound station up the block, it's remarkable to me, and I have to just say there's forces at work. Higher power, whatever you want to call it. Certainly not something I planned. It just happened, and I went along for the ride, and oh, what a ride it has been. Doing anything with anyone for a long length of time, you'll have to admit 50 and a half years is a lifetime, in some cases more than a lifetime. But to do something with anyone for that length of time is truly challenging. Hasn't always been wonderful. Anybody who is saying it's terrific all the time, don't believe them. Whatever situation you're in or about to be in, if you're getting married, there's not the commitment these days. You stay for a few years, change your mind, want someone else. It's not the same way it was in the 60s. We got married June 12th of 1965, as I told most of you. Celebrated our 50th anniversary last year at the Culver City Senior Center, where my husband and I are active. And I thought, geez, 50 years went by like that. And I think you're gonna find the older you get, the faster life goes. So live every moment. It's just an amazing life if you allow it to be. So again, I go back to the phrase, timing in life is everything, but stick around for the ride. Toastmasters.